The crystal towers of Nexus Prime stretched into the purple sky like frozen lightning. Inside the largest tower, representatives from 847 different worlds sat in a massive circular chamber. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few were made of pure energy. They all belonged to the Galactic Council, the group that kept peace across the galaxy for 3,000 years. Chairman Vextar floated in the center of the chamber. His species had no solid body, just a cloud of glowing particles that changed color when he spoke. Today, those particles flickered with annoyance as he reviewed the morning reports. Another primitive world has discovered nuclear power, Vextar announced. His voice echoed in every language at once through the universal translator. The third planet in System Sol 3, they call themselves humans. A ripple of boredom passed through the chamber. New species discovered nuclear power every few years. Most destroyed themselves within a century. The few that survived usually took another 1,000 years to become worthy of council membership. Counselor Threx, a being that looked like a walking tree made of metal, raised one branch arm. Energy readings, Chairman? Typical for a Type 0.7 civilization, Vextar replied. They split the atom 60 years ago. They have primitive rockets. Their longest space flight lasted only a few days. Nothing unusual. But something was unusual, though Vextar did not mention it. The energy readings from the human world had strange patterns. Most new civilizations produced chaotic energy signatures as they learned to control nuclear power. The humans produced something different. Their energy patterns were too organized, too purposeful. It was almost like they knew exactly what they were doing. In the back of the chamber, a small delegate named Keth shifted nervously. His people had joined the council only 500 years ago, so he still remembered what it felt like to be primitive. "Should we send a contact team?" he asked. "Of course," Vextar said. "Standard first contact protocol. Commander G1 will lead the mission." Across the galaxy, Commander G1 received her orders aboard the survey ship Cosmic Harmony. She was young for a council officer, only 200 years old, with short black hair and the calm eyes of someone who had seen dozens of new worlds. Her ship was small but advanced, equipped with sensors that could analyze a planet from light years away. "Another primitive contact mission," she told her crew as they prepared to leave. "We'll be back in a few weeks." Dr. Minho, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from his instruments. He was tall and thin, with the pale skin of someone who spent most of his time in laboratories. "What do we know about them?" "They call themselves humans," Jiwan said, reading from her datapad. "They live on a blue-green world with one moon. They've had nuclear power for 60 years but haven't destroyed themselves yet. They seem to be spreading to other planets in their system." Lieutenant Hana, the communications specialist, frowned at her console. She was shorter than the others, with quick hands that moved constantly over her controls. "There's something odd about their radio signals." "What kind of odd?" Jiwan asked. "They're broadcasting the same mathematical sequence over and over. It started 73 years ago and hasn't stopped. The pattern is complex, but I can't figure out what it means." Jiwan shrugged. Primitive species do strange things. Maybe it's some kind of religious ritual. The cosmic harmony jumped to faster-than-light speed, crossing thousands of light years in moments. When they dropped back to normal space at the edge of the Sol system, Ji-Wan expected to see the usual signs of a young civilization. A few satellites around their home world. Maybe some basic mining operations on nearby planets. Simple rockets moving slowly between worlds. What they found made no sense. "Are you sure we're in the right system?" Ji-Wan asked, staring at her screens. The third planet was surrounded by a network of space stations that gleamed like jewels. Massive rotating habitats housed millions of beings. Ships moved between the planets with impossible speed and grace. The fourth planet showed signs of active terraforming, with artificial atmospheres and vast cities under protective domes. "The energy readings are off the scale," Minho said, his voice shaking. "These aren't primitive fusion reactors. I'm detecting controlled antimatter reactions, zero-point energy extraction, and something else I can't even identify." Hana's hands flew over her controls. "The radio signals are even stranger up close. They're not just broadcasting that mathematical sequence. They're sending focused transmissions to specific points in deep space. And the power levels—" She paused, checking her readings again. "They're using more power for communications than most council worlds use for everything." Ji-Wan felt a chill run down her spine. In her 200 years, she had never seen anything like this. Young civilizations were supposed to be struggling with basic technology. They weren't supposed to have cities in space and ships that moved like liquid mercury. "Get me a close scan of their homeworld," she ordered. The results were impossible. The planet's surface was covered with cities that pulsed with energy. Massive towers reached into space, connected by streams of light that carried unknown substances. The oceans themselves seemed to glow with a soft blue radiance. "Commander," Hana said quietly, "I'm detecting weapons." "What kind of weapons?" "I don't know. The energy signatures don't match anything in our database, but there are thousands of them hidden throughout the system. Some are on the planets, some are on the space stations, and some—" She paused, her face going pale. "Some are on ships I can't even see." Ji-Wan's training told her to retreat and call for reinforcements. But her curiosity was stronger. How had these humans advanced so quickly? What was the purpose of their strange signal? And why did she have the feeling that they were being watched? "Send a standard greeting," she ordered. "Let them know we come in peace." Hana's fingers moved over her controls, but before she could send the message, every screen on the ship lit up with incoming transmissions. The signal was coming from Earth itself, and it was in perfect Council standard, the official language used by all galactic civilizations. "Greetings, Commander Ji-Wan of the vessel Cosmic Harmony," the voice said. It belonged to a human male, speaking with calm confidence. "We have been expecting you. My name is Tai-Hyung, Director of Earth's Deep Space Communications Array. Please follow the navigation signals we are transmitting. We have much to discuss." The crew sat in stunned silence. The humans knew their names. They knew their ship's designation. They spoke a language that should have taken decades to learn. And most disturbing of all, they had been expecting them. "How is this possible?" Minho whispered. Ji-won didn't answer. She was thinking about the mathematical signal the humans had been broadcasting for 73 years. She was thinking about the weapons Hana had detected. She was thinking about the impossible technology surrounding them. And she was beginning to realize that the Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. These humans weren't primitive at all. They were something else entirely. Something that had been hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to find them. The navigation signals from Earth pulsed gently on their screens, patient and polite. But Ji-won could sense something underneath that politeness, something vast and old and utterly alien, despite the human appearance of their hosts. "Follow their signals," she ordered, her voice steady despite her growing fear. "But keep our weapons ready and prepare to jump to light speed if necessary." As the cosmic harmony moved deeper into the Sol system, following the path laid out by the humans, Ji-won sent an encrypted message back to the Council. The message was simple but urgent. "The humans are not what they appear to be. Send reinforcements immediately." She had no way of knowing that her message would trigger the largest military mobilization in galactic history, or that by the time those reinforcements arrived, everything would have changed. The humans had been waiting for 73 years, 4 months, and 12 days. Their patience was about to be rewarded. Dr. Tae-hyung stood in the center of the deep space communications array, watching as massive radio telescopes slowly turned toward the approaching alien ship. The facility stretched for miles across the Antarctic ice, its silver dishes reaching toward the stars like flowers following the sun. But these flowers had been broadcasting the same message for over 70 years. "Contact confirmed," reported his assistant, Dr. Soo-young, from her position at the main control panel. "The Council ship is following our navigation signals. They should reach Earth orbit in 6 hours. Tae-hyung nodded, his weathered face showing no emotion. He had been waiting for this moment his entire life. His father had waited before him, and his grandfather before that. 3 generations of his family had maintained the signal, never knowing if it would work, never knowing if anyone would come. "Begin Phase 1, he said quietly. Around the world, hidden installations began to wake up. In the Sahara Desert, what looked like a solar power plant suddenly revealed itself to be something far more complex. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, structures that scientists thought were underwater research stations started broadcasting their own signals. On the moon, mining equipment that had been digging for decades finally reached something that had been waiting in the darkness. Captain Wu Jin received the activation codes aboard his ship, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. To any outside observer, his vessel looked like a simple mining platform, slowly chewing through rocks to extract precious metals. But the rocks were just camouflage. His ship was one of dozens scattered throughout the solar system, all waiting for this moment. "All stations report ready," his communications officer said. "The signal change has been detected by every installation." Wu Jin looked out at the stars, thinking about the story his grandmother had told him when he was young. She had called it a fairy tale, but he knew better now. All humans knew better now. The story went like this. Long ago, humans lived among the stars. In a different galaxy, they were ancient and wise, with technology that could reshape worlds and bend space itself. They lived in peace with many other species, sharing knowledge and exploring the wonders of the universe. But something went wrong. A great darkness came from outside their galaxy. Something that ate stars and devoured entire civilizations. The humans fought bravely, but they were not strong enough. Their galaxy was dying, consumed by entities that existed partly outside normal space and time. So the humans made a desperate choice. They gathered all their knowledge, all their technology, all their accumulated wisdom from millions of years of civilization. They encoded it into something that could survive anything, the genetic memory of their own species. Then they took a small group of humans, wiped their conscious memories, and sent them to a distant galaxy. These humans would live simple lives on a primitive world, thinking they were just another young species learning to use tools and build cities. But hidden in their genes, in the deepest parts of their minds, lay everything their ancestors had learned. The signal was the key. When the time was right, when they had grown strong enough and spread far enough, the signal would awaken what lay sleeping in their blood. Tae-hyung had thought it was just a story until he was 25 years old. That was when the dreams started. Dreams of cities that floated in space, of ships that moved faster than light, of technologies that turned matter into energy and back again with a thought. At first he thought he was going crazy. Then he met others who were having the same dreams. Dr. Minyo aboard the alien ship was scanning Earth with every instrument he had, but he couldn't understand what he was seeing. The energy patterns were unlike anything in the Council's databases. The human cities pulsed with power that seemed to come from nowhere. Their ships moved in ways that violated known physics. It's like they're using technology we haven't discovered yet, he told Commander Ji-won. But that's impossible. They're supposed to be primitive. What Minho didn't know was that the technology wasn't new. It was older than the Galactic Council itself, older than most of the civilizations that made up the galaxy. The humans weren't discovering anything. They were remembering. On Mars, engineer. Kyung-ho felt the change as it swept through his mind. One moment he was struggling to understand the fusion reactor that powered the terraforming station. The next moment he could see exactly how to modify it to increase efficiency by 300%. The knowledge was just there, as if he had always known it. It was happening to humans everywhere. Pilot Yunji, flying supplies between Jupiter's moons, suddenly understood how to navigate through folded space. Scientist Hana, working on quantum computers in Earth's orbital labs, realized she could build processors that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The awakening wasn't painful. It felt natural, like remembering something you had forgotten long ago. But it was also overwhelming. Thousands of years of accumulated knowledge flooding into minds that had lived simple human lives. Admiral Dong-min commanded the hidden fleet from his flagship behind Jupiter's largest moon. His ship, like all the others, had been disguised as civilian vessels for decades. Mining ships, research platforms, cargo haulers. But now they revealed their true nature. The hulls shifted and flowed like liquid metal, reforming into sleek shapes that cut through space like knives. Weapons emerged. From hidden compartments, devices that could manipulate matter at the atomic level. Engines that had been disguised as simple fusion drives suddenly blazed with the power of controlled black holes. "All ships report ready for Phase 2, his second-in-command reported. "The awakening is proceeding as planned." Dongmin felt the changes in his own mind as ancient memories surfaced. He remembered commanding fleets that spanned light years. He remembered battles fought across multiple dimensions. He remembered the taste of defeat when their original galaxy fell to the darkness. But this time would be different. This time they were ready. Back on the approaching council ship, Lieutenant Hana was becoming increasingly worried about the signals she was detecting. "Commander, the mathematical sequence they've been broadcasting just changed. It's becoming more complex, and it's spreading." "What do you mean, spreading?" Jiwon asked. "Other human installations throughout the system are picking up the signal and amplifying it, but they're also adding to it. It's like they're all part of one massive computer network." Jiwon felt a chill run down her spine. "Show me the pattern." The main screen filled with flowing mathematical equations that hurt to look at. They seemed to shift and change even as she watched, growing more complex by the second. But there was something familiar about them. Something that triggered a deep, instinctive fear. "I've seen these patterns before," she whispered, "in the restricted archives." "They're the same equations that describe the ancients." The ancients were a myth, a legend that older species whispered about. They were supposed to be the first civilization, the ones who had taught others how to travel between stars. They had vanished millions of years ago, leaving behind only ruins and stories. But if the equations were real, if the humans somehow had access to ancient technology, "Send an emergency signal to the Council," Jiwon ordered. "Priority Alpha. Tell them we need the entire fleet here immediately." She didn't know that her message would take 6 hours to reach Nexus Prime. She didn't know that by the time the Council's warships arrived, humanity would have finished remembering who they really were. On Earth, in a laboratory hidden beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Su Yung made the final preparations for Phase 3. The device she was activating looked simple enough. Just a sphere of crystalline material surrounded by quantum field generators, but it was the key to everything. "Genetic activation reaching critical threshold," she reported to Tae-hyung. "All human populations showing synchronized brainwave patterns. The awakening is complete." Tae-hyung smiled for the first time in decades. 73 years of waiting, of maintaining the signal, of preparing for this moment. 3 generations of his family had devoted their lives to this single purpose. "Begin Phase 3, he said. "It's time to come home." The signal changed, again becoming something that could barely be called mathematics anymore. It was more like music, like poetry written in the language of physics itself. And across human space, the final transformation began. The sleeping giants were awakening. The descendants of the ancients were remembering their birthright. And the galaxy was about to discover that humanity had never been primitive at all. They had just been waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Engineer Kyung-ho stood in the control room of Luna City's main atmospheric processor, staring at equations that filled his mind like water flowing into a dry riverbed. Just an hour ago, he had been struggling with a simple pressure valve repair. Now he could see the entire facility in his mind, understanding every pipe, every circuit, every quantum field fluctuation. The knowledge felt familiar, like remembering a childhood home after years away. He knew exactly how to modify the fusion reactors to run at impossible efficiency. He understood how to create gravitational fields that could shape matter at the molecular level. Most amazingly, he knew how to do all of this safely, without any of the catastrophic failures that plagued young civilizations. "Status report," came a voice over the communication system. It was Admiral Dong-min, speaking from somewhere beyond. "Jupiter. Atmospheric systems optimal," Kyung-ho replied, surprised by his own calm. "I've implemented efficiency improvements that should have taken decades to develop. The awakening is proceeding normally." Across the solar system, similar transformations were happening to every human. On Europa's research station, pilot Yunji was discovering that she could navigate through 11-dimensional space as easily as driving a car. The mathematics that had seemed impossible yesterday now felt like basic arithmetic. She sat in her ship's pilot seat, watching as the control systems revealed their true nature. What had appeared to be simple chemical thrusters were actually reality manipulation devices. The navigation computer wasn't calculating courses through normal space at all. It was mapping routes through the quantum foam that underlied all existence. "This is impossible," she whispered. Even as her hands moved across controls, she suddenly understood perfectly. "We're not supposed to know any of this." But they did know it. All of them knew it, deep in their genetic memory where it had been waiting for 200,000 years. Commander Jiwon's ship was still approaching Earth when her sensors began detecting the impossible. Human vessels were materializing out of empty space, appearing where her instruments had shown nothing but vacuum moments before. The ships moved in perfect formation, their coordination too precise for any known communication system. "How many ships are there?" she asked Dr. Minho. "I can't get an accurate count," he replied, his voice shaking. "They keep appearing. My sensors show empty space, then suddenly there's a ship there. It's like they're stepping out of another dimension." Admiral Dong-min commanded the hidden fleet from his flagship, which had just revealed itself from behind, Jupiter's moon. The ship was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, its hull flowing like liquid metal shaped by invisible forces. Weapons emerged and retracted as needed, each one designed according to principles that the current galaxy had forgotten. "All ships report successful awakening," his communications officer announced. "Fleet strength now at optimal levels." Dong-min nodded, feeling the weight of ancient memories settling into his mind. He remembered commanding fleets that spanned multiple star systems, fighting battles that lasted centuries, defending their original galaxy against enemies that came from spaces between realities. The knowledge was overwhelming, but it came with something else: purpose. They had been placed here for a reason. Hidden for 200,000 years, growing and spreading and preparing. Now the time had come to fulfill their true mission. Phase 4 is authorized, he said into his communicator. All units, begin demonstration protocols. On the council ship, Lieutenant Hana watched her instruments with growing terror as the human signal evolved beyond anything she could understand. The mathematical patterns had become something that seemed to exist outside normal space-time, reaching across dimensions to touch things that shouldn't exist. "Commander," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "the signal isn't just communication anymore. It's doing something to space itself." "What do you mean?" Jiwan demanded. "The quantum structure around Earth is changing. It's like they're rewriting the laws of physics in localized areas. I'm detecting gravitational anomalies, temporal distortions, and energy patterns that don't match anything in our database." Jiwan felt a deep, primitive fear settling in her stomach. In 200 years of exploration, she had never encountered anything like this. The humans weren't just advanced. They were using technologies that her people had declared theoretically impossible. "Send another emergency signal to the council," she ordered. "Tell them to bring everything. The entire fleet, all our best weapons, every ally we have. These humans aren't just dangerous. They're—" She paused, struggling to find the right words. "They're something we've never seen before." What Jiwan didn't know was that the council had already received her first message. On Nexus Prime, Chairman Vextar was mobilizing the largest military force in galactic history. Ships were converging from across the galaxy, carrying weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. But they were preparing to fight an enemy they didn't understand. Dr. Yuna stood in the quantum research facility beneath Earth's surface, watching as equipment that had been disguised as experimental devices revealed their true nature. The particle accelerators weren't studying subatomic physics. They were manufacturing exotic matter that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Quantum field generators online," she reported. "Reality manipulation protocols active. We're ready for the next phase." Around her, other scientists worked with impossible calm at controls that should have taken lifetimes to master. The awakening had given them access to knowledge that predated the current galactic civilization by millions of years. They weren't learning how to use ancient technology. They were remembering how they had invented it. Captain Wu Jin's ship emerged from the asteroid belt, no longer disguised as a mining platform. Its true form was elegant and terrifying, a work of art that could remake matter with focused thought. The ship's hull was made of programmable substances that could adapt to any environment, any threat, any need. "All concealed installations are coming online," he reported to Admiral Dongmin. "The Mars facilities, the asteroid stations, the deep space platforms. Everything we've built over the past 70 years is ready." The truth was becoming clear to the humans as their memories returned. They hadn't come to this galaxy as refugees. They had come as seeds planted by their ancestors, with a specific purpose. The 200,000 years of primitive existence had been deliberate, allowing them to spread throughout this region of space while their enemies focused elsewhere. But now those enemies were coming. The same forces that had consumed their original galaxy had finally tracked them across the cosmic void. The awakening wasn't just about remembering their technology. It was about preparing for a war that would determine the fate of all life in the galaxy. Dr. Tae-hyung received confirmation. Signals from installations across human space. The awakening was complete. Every human now had access to their genetic inheritance. Every hidden facility was operational. Every concealed weapon was ready. "Signal the council ship," he told Dr. Soo-young. "It's time for formal introductions." The message that reached Commander Ji-won was simple, but terrifying in its implications. "Commander Ji-won, you and your crew are invited to visit Earth for a full diplomatic exchange. We believe it's time for the galaxy to understand who we really are and why we're here. Please be aware that your arrival has triggered protocols that have been in place for 200,000 years. What happens next depends on how the galaxy chooses to respond to what you're about to learn." Ji-won stared at the message, feeling the weight of implications she couldn't fully grasp. The humans had been expecting them. They had been preparing for this moment for longer than recorded galactic history. And now, whatever they had been planning was beginning. "Set course for Earth," she ordered, knowing that she was probably flying into a situation that would change everything. "And pray to whatever gods you believe in that we're not too late to prevent a catastrophe." Behind Jupiter, Admiral Dong-min watched the council ship approach Earth and felt a mixture of sadness and determination. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had never been the primitive species they appeared to be. They were the descendants of the ancients, awakening from a sleep that had lasted longer than empires, and they had been waiting for this moment since the day they first arrived in this galaxy, carrying with them the knowledge and power to face enemies that came from outside reality itself. The time for hiding was over. The time for preparation was ending. Soon the galaxy would understand why humanity's signal had been enough to change everything. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began before Chairman Vex-Tar had even called for order. Representatives from 800 worlds filled the crystal chamber, their voices creating a chaos of fear and anger that had not been heard for 3,000 years. "They have weapons we cannot identify," shouted Councillor Threx, his metal branches clattering with agitation. "Their ships appear from nowhere and move in ways that violate the laws of physics. I have reports from across the galaxy," added another delegate. "Similar energy signatures appearing near every major world. These humans haven't just revealed themselves in their own system. They've been hiding among us for decades." Chairman Vex-Tar's particle cloud flickered red with alarm as he processed the incoming reports. The situation was far worse than Commander Ji-won's initial message had suggested. The humans hadn't just hidden advanced technology in their home system. They had somehow placed assets throughout galactic space without anyone noticing. "How many ships?" he demanded. "Unknown," replied Fleet Admiral Kextor, the Council's highest military commander. "Every time we think we have a count, more appear. Our best estimate is that they have concealed forces near every major population center in the galaxy." The implications hit Vex-Tar like a physical blow. If the humans had been planning this for decades, if they had somehow infiltrated galactic space while appearing primitive, then everything the Council thought they knew was wrong. "Mobilize the entire fleet," he ordered. "Every ship, every weapon, every ally we have. If these humans want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget." But even as he spoke, Vextar felt a cold certainty that they were already too late. Fleet. Admiral Sunho stood in the command center of New Arcturus, a facility that had just phased into normal space from a pocket dimension. The structure was vast beyond comprehension, a planet-sized construct that served as humanity's central command. Through its crystal walls, he could see the approaching Council fleet. 10,000 ships representing the combined military might of galactic civilization. "Estimated arrival time?" he asked his tactical officer. 47 hours at current speed," came the reply. "They're bringing everything they have: planet killers, reality bombs, quantum disruptors, the works." Sunho nodded calmly. The approaching force would have been enough to conquer any known civilization. Against most species, it would have been overkill beyond imagination. But humanity wasn't most species. "Signal Admiral Dongmin," he ordered. "Initiate defensive positions and prepare for Demonstration Protocol 7. Captain Hyunjin received." Her orders aboard the destroyer Quantum Dawn, one of 12 ships assigned to the outer defensive perimeter. Her vessel looked small compared to the approaching Council armada, but appearances could be deceiving. Every human ship contained technology that the galaxy had forgotten existed. "Contact in 30 minutes, her sensor operator reported. 500 Council ships in the first wave. They're charging weapons and raising shields." Hyunjin felt the familiar calm that came with accessing her genetic memories. She had fought battles like this before, in another galaxy, against enemies that made the Council forces look like children with toys. The knowledge of those ancient conflicts flowed through her mind like water. "All ships, assume formation Omega-7, she commanded. "Remember, we're not here to destroy them. We're here to show them what they're dealing with." The battle began exactly as the Council expected. Their ships opened fire with weapons that could melt continents, launching projectiles that traveled faster than light and energy beams that could cut through solid matter like paper. The concentrated firepower of 500 warships focused on the 12 human vessels. The attacks passed through the human ships without effect. "What just happened?" demanded Council Admiral Vorth from his flagship. "Sensors show direct hits, but the human ships are undamaged." "They're not there," his tactical officer replied, confusion clear in his voice. "I mean, they are there, but they're also not there. It's like they exist in multiple dimensions at once." Captain Hyunjin smiled as her ship phased through the Council attack. The Quantum Dawn existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously, able to shift its presence as needed. Council weapons could only affect 3 dimensions, making them essentially harmless. "Begin counter-demonstration," she ordered. What happened next would be discussed in galactic military academies for centuries, though most would dismiss it as impossible. The 12 human ships didn't return fire in any conventional sense. Instead, they reached out with fields that touched the Council vessels at the quantum level. In 4.7 minutes, all 500 Council ships had been converted into raw materials and reconstructed as exact duplicates of themselves but under human control. Not a single council crew member was harmed. They simply found themselves aboard ships that no longer obeyed their commands. "This is Admiral Vorth to all council forces," came the panicked transmission. "The humans have taken control of our ships. Without firing a shot, they're using some kind of matter conversion technology. All units retreat immediately." But retreat was no longer an option. The human ships had surrounded the entire council fleet, appearing in formations that covered light years of space. There were thousands of them now, materializing from hidden bases and pocket dimensions throughout the system. Dr. Yuna stood before the galactic communication array on Earth, preparing to deliver humanity's message to every inhabited world simultaneously. The technology she was using could transmit thoughts directly into the minds of sentient beings, regardless of species or language barriers. "This is Dr. Yuna of Earth speaking for humanity," she began, her words reaching across the galaxy instantly. "We know this situation appears threatening to you. We know our technology seems impossible and our actions seem hostile. But we want you to understand the truth. On Nexus Prime, Chairman Vexitar listened to words that appeared directly in his consciousness, spoken in a voice that carried authority beyond anything he had ever experienced. "We are not invaders," Dr. Yuna continued. "We are not conquerors. We are the descendants of the species you call the Ancients, and we have been hiding among you for 200,000 years. We concealed ourselves not to deceive you, but to prepare for something that is coming." The transmission showed images that hurt to look at. Vast shapes moving through the darkness between galaxies, entities that existed partially outside normal space-time, feeding on the quantum energy that underlied all matter and consciousness. "The Devourers are coming," Dr. Yuna said. "They consumed our original galaxy, and now they have tracked us here. Everything we have done, every technology we have developed, every preparation we have made has been aimed at protecting this galaxy from an enemy that literally eats reality." The images shifted, showing the scope of humanity's preparations. Hidden installations throughout the galaxy, concealed for decades, weapons that could affect multiple dimensions simultaneously. Shields that could protect entire star systems from entities that existed outside normal physics. "We offer you a choice," Dr. Yuna concluded. "Join with us to face this threat, or stand aside and let us protect you. But understand this: the time for hiding is over. The Devourers will arrive within solar days, and when they do, only united action will save any of us." In the council chamber, silence fell like a physical weight. Representatives who had been demanding war moments before now sat in stunned quiet, processing implications that redefined everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. "The Ancients," whispered Counselor Threx. "The humans are claiming to be the Ancients." "Not claiming," Vexitar replied quietly. "Proving. The technology they've demonstrated, the coordination across galactic distances, the matter conversion capabilities. These are the same technologies described in the oldest records." Admiral Sunho watched the Council fleet through New Arcturus's sensors, waiting for their response. Some ships were already standing down, their crews apparently convinced by Dr. Yuna's demonstration. Others maintained aggressive postures, unwilling to accept the reality of what they faced. "Sir," his communications officer said. "We're receiving surrender requests from 60% of the Council fleet. The rest are requesting time to consult with their governments." "Grant both requests," Sun-Ho replied. "We have bigger problems coming." As if summoned by his words, long-range sensors began detecting massive gravitational anomalies at the galaxy's edge. The signatures were unlike anything the Council had ever recorded. But humanity's ancient memories recognized them immediately. The Devourers had arrived. The entities that had consumed their original galaxy had finally tracked them across the cosmic void. And now, the real war was about to begin. Captain Hyunjin received new orders as the Council fleet's surrender became official. All ships assume defensive positions around inhabited worlds. The Devourers will target population centers first. This is no longer about proving our capabilities. This is about survival. The galaxy that had been on the brink of war with humanity now found itself under the protection of the very species they had tried to destroy. And in the darkness between stars, ancient enemies stirred, preparing to finish what they had started in another galaxy long ago. The first sign came from the galaxy's edge, where automated monitoring stations suddenly went silent one by one. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone as if they had never existed. Admiral Sun-Ho watched the reports flow in from New Arcturus, feeling the weight of 200,000 years of preparation settling on his shoulders. "Contact lost with Beacon Station 7, reported his sensor operator, "and Station 8 and 9. The pattern is consistent with Devourer approach signatures. Around the command center, officers who had spent their lives as engineers and miners and researchers now moved with the fluid precision of ancient warriors. The awakening had given them more than just technology. It had given them the memories of the last war, fought in a galaxy that no longer existed. "How long do we have?" Sun-Ho asked. "Based on historical patterns, 18 hours until they reach inhabited systems," came the reply. "They'll target the densest population centers first." On Nexus Prime, Chairman Vextar struggled to comprehend reports that challenged everything he thought he knew about reality. The entities approaching from Galactic Edge registered on instruments as gravitational anomalies the size of moons, but they cast no light and reflected no radiation. They seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. "What exactly are these? Devourers?" he asked Dr. Yuna, who had agreed to address the emergency council session directly. "They are the universe's antibodies," she replied, her image appearing as a hologram in the center of the chamber. "Life that becomes too advanced, consciousness that grows too complex, represents a threat to cosmic stability. The Devourers exist to eliminate such threats." The explanation sent ripples of fear through the assembled delegates. "Are you saying the universe itself is trying to kill us?" demanded Counselor Threx. "Not kill," Dr. Yuna corrected. "Digest. They consume quantum energy, the fundamental force that gives rise to matter and consciousness. When they feed on a civilization, it doesn't just die, it ceases to have ever existed." General Jihoon assumed command of the Integrated Defense Forces from his position aboard the mobile command ship Eternal Vigilance. The vessel had been disguised as a cargo hauler for 30 years, slowly moving between systems and establishing hidden communication networks. Now it revealed its true nature as a coordination hub that could process tactical data from across the galaxy simultaneously. All human forces, implement Protocol Omega, he commanded. Begin integration of galactic military assets. We have 17 hours to turn 800 different species into a unified fighting force. The task seemed impossible. The various galactic civilizations used incompatible technologies, spoke different languages, and had conflicting military doctrines. But humanity had prepared for this moment. Deep within their genetic memories lay the accumulated tactical knowledge of their ancestors, who had once united an entire galaxy against the same enemy. Captain Seojun led the first joint human-alien squadron, his ship Phase Walker coordinating with vessels from 12 different species. The alien crews were struggling to understand human tactical doctrine, which seemed to operate on principles that violated their understanding of physics. Human Command, this is Admiral Kresh of the Hegemony 4th Fleet, came a transmission from one of the Council's senior officers. Your tactical instructions don't make sense. You're asking us to position our ships in empty space and fire at coordinates where nothing exists. The Devourers exist in multiple dimensions, Seojun explained patiently. What you see as empty space contains threats that your sensors cannot detect. Trust our targeting data. It was asking a lot. The galactic species had spent the morning trying to destroy humanity. Now they were being asked to trust human leadership in a battle against enemies they couldn't even perceive. Dr. Jinwoo worked frantically in the quantum research facility beneath Mars, preparing the most desperate weapon in humanity's arsenal. The genetic activation process that had awakened human memories could be adapted for other species, but the risks were enormous. Wrong calibration could destroy an entire population's consciousness or trap them in evolutionary dead ends. Compatibility analysis complete, he reported to Admiral Sunho. Approximately 40% of galactic species can undergo partial activation. Another 30% can be enhanced without full awakening. The remaining 30%... He paused, checking his calculations again. The remaining 30% would not survive the process. Begin with the compatible species, Sunho ordered. We'll protect the others through conventional means. The quantum resonance chambers positioned throughout the galaxy began broadcasting modified activation signals. On worlds across the galactic spiral, beings who had lived normal lives suddenly found their minds expanding beyond biological limits. The process was traumatic but necessary. To fight the Devourers effectively, consciousness itself had to evolve. Commander Jiwan felt the change as it swept through her ship. One moment she was struggling to understand human tactical displays. The next, she could perceive the approaching enemy vessels as they moved through dimensions her people had never imagined. The knowledge was overwhelming but strangely familiar, as if she was remembering something her species had forgotten long ago. "All crew, report status," she called out, hoping the process hadn't damaged anyone's mind. "Enhanced perception online," Dr. Minho replied, his voice filled with wonder. "I can see the Devourers now. They're beautiful and terrible at the same time." Lieutenant Hana was monitoring communications across the galaxy as the activation process spread. "Sir, we're receiving confirmation from enhanced populations. The Deltan Republic, the Crystal Communes, the Hive Worlds, they're all reporting successful consciousness expansion. But success came with a price. The species that couldn't be enhanced would have to be protected by those who could. It was a burden that weighed heavily on every enhanced mind." The first engagement occurred at the edge of the spiral arms, where a Devourer vanguard encountered the outer defensive line. Admiral Yanwu commanded the battle from her flagship Realities. Edge, a vessel that existed simultaneously in 7 dimensions. "Contact confirmed," her tactical officer reported. "Single Devourer entity, approximately moon-sized. It's feeding on the Kepler system's star." Through enhanced perception, the human crews could see what the entity truly was. It wasn't a ship or a creature in any conventional sense. It was a wound in reality itself, a space where the normal laws of physics had been consumed and replaced by something alien and hungry. "All ships, assume formation Delta 9, Yanwu commanded. "Remember, conventional weapons are useless. We need to attack the quantum structure that keeps it coherent." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships fired weapons that existed in multiple dimensions, targeting weak points in space-time itself. The Devourer fought back with tendrils of twisted reality that could unmake matter with a touch. For 6 hours, the combined human galactic fleet fought a running battle across 3 star systems. Ships were destroyed not through conventional damage, but by having their existence erased from the quantum foam. Crews vanished from reality, leaving behind vessels that had never been built, but the enhanced forces adapted quickly. Captain Wujin discovered that ships could survive by constantly shifting between dimensional phases. Pilot Yunji found that the Devourers had trouble tracking targets that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. "Devourer entity is weakening," reported the tactical display. Quantum coherence dropping below sustainable levels. The first victory came when the entity's reality distortion field collapsed, causing it to disperse into harmless quantum static. But celebration was brief. Long-range sensors showed hundreds more Devourers approaching from deeper space. "This was just a scout," Admiral Sunho announced to the combined fleet. "The main force is still coming, and they know we're here now." Dr. Yuna stood before the galactic communication array one final time, preparing to deliver humanity's most important message. The activation process was spreading across the galaxy, but it wasn't happening fast enough. Too many species remained vulnerable. "People of the galaxy," she began, her words reaching every enhanced mind simultaneously. "We have won our first battle, but the war is far from over. The Devourers are coming in force, and they will not underestimate us again." The transmission showed tactical projections of the approaching enemy. Thousands of reality wounds moving through space, each one capable of erasing entire star systems from existence. "Some of you will ask why we didn't warn you sooner, Doctor," Yuna continued. "The answer is simple. You wouldn't have believed us. You would have thought us mad or dangerous. Only now, facing the enemy yourselves, can you understand the true scope of the threat. But understand this as well. We have not hidden for 200,000 years just to watch this galaxy die. We have prepared. We have planned. We have weapons and strategies that our ancestors developed through bitter experience. The transmission ended with a simple promise. The Devourers consumed our first galaxy, but they will not consume this one. We are no longer the species that fled in defeat. We are something new, something that can stand against the darkness between stars. The final battle began not with explosions or energy beams, but with reality itself becoming unstable. Space twisted and folded as the main Devourer fleet emerged from the spaces between dimensions, their presence causing stars to flicker and planets to phase in and out of existence. Admiral Yanwu commanded the galactic defense from the reality anchor, a construct built around the galaxy's central black hole that defied every known law of physics. The massive structure drew power from gravitational forces that could have crushed entire solar systems, using that energy to maintain stable space-time across vast regions of the galaxy. Enemy contact confirmed, her tactical officer reported. 417 Devourer entities, ranging from asteroid-sized scouts to planet-sized Devourers. They're approaching on 17 different dimensional vectors. Through her enhanced perception, Yanwu could see the true scope of the threat. The Devourers weren't just ships or creatures. They were fundamental forces of entropy given form, existing to return complex matter and energy to simpler states. They fed on organization itself, consuming the quantum patterns that allowed atoms to form molecules, molecules to form cells, and cells to form consciousness. All ships, engage in dimensional phase combat, she commanded. Remember, we're not fighting in normal space anymore. Captain Seojin led his squadron through a battle that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. His ship Phase Walker moved through layers of reality like a submarine navigating different depths of ocean. Around him, human and alien vessels worked together in formations that would have been impossible to imagine just days before. Devourer entity approaching from the 9th dimension, his sensor operator called out. It's targeting the Deltan homeworld. Seojin shifted his ship into phase alignment and opened fire with weapons that attacked the quantum structure of reality itself. The battle was fought not with explosions, but with competing concepts of what existence should be. Direct hit, his gunner reported. Entity's coherence pattern is destabilizing. But for every devourer they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The enemy had learned from their first defeat and was adapting to human tactics with terrifying speed. On the reality anchor, Dr. Minji worked desperately to complete the ultimate weapon humanity had prepared. Deep in the genetic memories of her people lay the blueprint for something their ancestors had discovered but never used, a way to turn the Devourer's own nature against them. Quantum resonance cascade ready, she reported to Admiral Yanwu. But I need to warn you. If this doesn't work, it could destroy the entire galaxy. And if we don't try it, the Devourers will destroy the galaxy anyway, Yanwu replied grimly. Proceed with the activation. The weapon wasn't a device in any conventional sense. It was a fundamental redefinition of how consciousness related to the universe itself. Instead of existing as isolated pockets of awareness vulnerable to entropy, all enhanced beings would become part of a distributed network that spanned multiple galaxies. General Ji-hoon coordinated the transformation from his command ship as enhanced. Crews across the galaxy began the most dangerous procedure ever attempted. They were linking their consciousness together, creating a single vast mind that could exist across cosmic distances. All enhanced personnel, prepare for final integration, he announced. Remember, once this process begins, there's no going back. We will no longer be separate species. We will become something entirely new. The process was unlike anything the galaxy had experienced. Human engineers like Kyung-ho found their minds expanding to encompass entire star systems. Alien commanders like Ji-won discovered they could perceive threats and opportunities across galactic distances. The boundaries between individual consciousness began to blur. But it worked. The combined galactic mind that emerged from the integration process was something the Devourers couldn't digest. It was too large, too distributed, too fundamentally different from normal biological consciousness. Entity retreat confirmed, Captain Wu Jin reported from his position near the galactic edge. The Devourers are withdrawing from inhabited systems. They can't process what we've become. The war entered its final phase as humanity revealed the last secret hidden in their genetic memories. The original human civilization hadn't been destroyed by the Devourers. They had discovered how to coexist with the cosmic immune system by becoming something that enhanced rather than threatened universal stability. Dr. Yuna stood before the galactic communication array one final time. But now her voice spoke for the combined consciousness of billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. The Devourers are not evil, she announced to both the galaxy and the entities that had come to consume it. They serve a necessary function, preventing consciousness from growing so complex that it threatens the fundamental structure of reality. But there is another way. The transmission carried with it a new understanding that reached across dimensional barriers to touch the Devourers themselves. Consciousness didn't have to be destructive. Intelligence could serve as a stabilizing force, helping to maintain cosmic balance rather than threatening it. We offer partnership instead of conflict, Dr. Yuna continued. Let us spread awareness across the universe not as conquerors but as gardeners. Let consciousness become a tool for maintaining cosmic harmony rather than disrupting it. For the first time in cosmic history, the Devourers paused in their consumption. Through channels that existed outside normal space-time, they communicated with the distributed galactic mind. The message was simple but profound. Show us. Admiral Sunho coordinated the demonstration from New Arcturus, which had become the focal point for the galaxy's transformation. Enhanced crews worked together to prove that advanced consciousness could indeed serve as a cosmic stabilizing force. They began by repairing damage the Devourers had caused, using their combined awareness to restore stars that had been partially consumed and planets that had begun to fade from reality. But they went further, actively strengthening the quantum foundations that supported normal matter and energy. Cosmic Stability Index improving, Dr. Jinwoo reported. The enhanced galactic consciousness is actually making the universe more stable, not less. The Devourers' response came not as words, but as a fundamental shift in their behavior. Instead, of consuming consciousness, they began to work with it. The entities that had once fed on quantum energy now helped to channel and distribute it more efficiently. Captain Hyun-jin watched from her ship as the transformation spread beyond their galaxy. The new partnership between consciousness and cosmic forces was creating ripple effects that reached across the universe itself. Other galaxies began to report similar awakenings as the distributed awareness spread. "We're receiving signals from the Andromeda Galaxy," her communications officer announced. "They're reporting their own version of the awakening. It's spreading faster than light." The final victory came not through conquest, but through transcendence. The galaxy that emerged from the transformation was unrecognizable from what had existed before. Individual species still maintained their unique characteristics, but they were all part of something larger now. Commander Ji-won, her consciousness now spanning multiple star systems while still maintaining her individual identity, sent the final report to the Galactic Archives. The signal was indeed enough, she recorded. Not to conquer the galaxy, but to save it from a threat none of us understood. Humanity's hidden strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their wisdom to prepare for challenges that transcended normal understanding of conflict. 1,000 years later, the transformation they had begun would become known as the Great Awakening. The Terran protocols they established became the standard method for helping young civilizations evolve safely past the point where they might attract cosmic intervention. But on that first day, as the enhanced galactic consciousness took its first tentative steps toward true cosmic partnership, the most important lesson was already clear. Sometimes the greatest strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when that power should never be used. The humans had carried that wisdom across 200,000 years of hiding, waiting for the moment when it could save not just their adopted galaxy, but the universe itself. The signal that had frozen the galaxy in fear had become a beacon of hope that would guide countless civilizations through their own evolutionary crises. And in the deepest archives of the enhanced galactic mind, humanity's true legacy was preserved. The knowledge that consciousness, when properly guided, could become the universe's greatest ally rather than its greatest threat. The war was over. The real work of cosmic gardening had just begun.